Have you ever wondered why we suffer? I mean, like really suffer. And not just from the big things that happen in our life that, gives us a real reason to, but also from everyday little things, broken expectations, missed opportunities, a traffic situation. Why do these things really get us off and, just make us suffer? Why does this cause us so much pain? And you might not see, the annoyance that you get being cut off, or, you might actually be a full-blown road rager when it comes to traffic stuff. And then you really know. So why does that happen? Why do all these things happen? Why do we have all these feelings and all this pain and all this suffering from little things to big things? And it's not what you think, right? It's not the event itself. It's something much deeper and much more subtle, right? Much, much more subtle. And it's something I realized during my 14 days of silence, of meditation. I was honestly meditating 14 hours a day for 14 days straight, diving deep into my own mind. And this is when I started to really put together the pieces of what's actually going on, that's leading to this experience. And, this realization, it really changed everything for me. And you as a Vipassana practitioner, it might also change it for you, right? Vipassana is all about you experiencing it, you walking the depth of your mind, you walking with your subconscious mind, reprogramming your understanding of life so that you are better. So of course, the things that I'm going to talk about is my experience and what I experienced at the 14-day meditation that led me to this understanding of suffering. But hopefully, it makes sense to you in your mind. And then as you continue to practice yourself, you can also come to some of these realizations, right? So let me take you back to a specific moment during my 14-day Vipassana retreat. I was dealing with a situation that made me very angry. I think I talked about anger a little bit in my last video. I was just full on angry. I was very, very angry. And it was something that I was thinking about for the majority of the meditation course when I was not meditating, right? I would have many hours in the day where I am so focused and so meditating. And then, you have moments of, an hour or, just you start rolling in stuff. And this was like the main thing that I was rolling in. So what I realized was, what sparks the anger in this situation for me was I have some expectations, right? I live life with certain expectations of what's going to happen. For example, in the traffic stop or like traffic situation, somebody cuts you off. I have an expectation of what I expect to happen. And then when, somebody breaks that by cutting too close to me, I felt they didn't have enough space and they cut me off, or they, got in front of me, or they merged, whatever the reason might be, right? Your expectations got broken, right? There was this understanding you had and that got broken, and then that triggers something, right? So for me, of course, I had some expectations that got broken. And so that triggers this anger, this spark. But what I realized was this isn't the real problem. The real problem isn't what happened in the world. And it isn't that I had these expectations broken, right? The issue is what happens after this anger is sparked, right? After my expectations got broken, the anger comes up. And of course, in the retreat, I'm just replaying it in my mind, right? So every time it comes up, the broken expectation sparks anger. Then the rolling starts. And this is where the real suffering happens, right? I'm constantly replaying the situation in my mind. I'm constantly coming up with new things I gotta say. And now I start replaying these things I'm gonna say, right? And sometimes there's new things that I add, but other times it's just respinning the whole situation, respinning the things I wanna say and all this kind of stuff. And this is where the suffering began, right? Have you ever done that? Have you ever gotten stuck in a loop? You're angry and you're frustrated. You can feel the tension There's also a feeling of vengeance. It kind of feels good, right? And it just, you want to keep rolling in it. But from previous experience, it's not good for you, and you're making it worse, and you want to stop, but you just can't, right? That's what happens when the anger just like literally starts rolling. But here's why this happens. And this is what I never really realized, right? This was the missing piece to understand what the rolling is and what is contributing to the rolling. And, in essence, what's contributing to the suffering. So our subconscious mind, again, I've talked about that a lot in this channel, is wired for survival, right? Just this DNA, the first two brains, we got this third brain. Well, obviously we have one brain, but so the two lower brains are made literally for survival, to keep us alive. And the issue is they do not know the difference between an imagination and something you're playing in your head and an actual danger, right? An actual, like a predator hunting you. It treats it the same, right? It treats you being hunted by a freaking tiger the same as somebody cutting you off in traffic, right? It just senses the reaction, the spark that starts. It senses the tension in the body. It senses you clenching your fists, and it starts spitting more chemicals, enhancing that reaction, getting your conscious mind out of there, like taking over. And it starts this, this chain reaction. And now, because you're in a more tense state and your subconscious is fueling that with its reactivity, which again has been working for billions of years to get us where we are, but now we're just in a different place, right? So the more this happens, the more these chemicals are spewing through you, the more likely you are in the next moment to continue the anger, to continue the vengeance, to continue rolling in it, right? And you're stuck in this cycle of suffering, all triggered by a reaction that's meant to keep you alive. But in reality, it's making our modern life very hard, right? I do not want to be this stressed, this anxious, or this angry about situations that don't require it, right? So in Vipassana, at this 14-day retreat, I found that there is a way out, that there is a way to break this cycle, right? And you need a multi-pronged approach, which is what I love about Vipassana. It isn't just words, right? It's not just, oh, you're angry. Tell yourself it's not worth it to be angry at this person or at this situation, right? That doesn't work too well. I found in my experience, if I am angry and for instance, somebody told me to calm down, that might even make me angrier, right? It's not like, it's not going to help, but it might for some people, right? Like, oh, think about your happy place or whatever they say. So this is where really sampajanna comes in, right? It's the key to the entire process of starting to come out of it at all levels of your experience, particularly the subconscious level, because that's a powerhouse, man. And if you can get your subconscious on your side and rewire it to have a better understanding of what's actually happening, then it won't react as if it's life and death to non-life and death situations, right? So just to recap, sampajanna as a practice is to remain aware of sensations in your physical body, anywhere in your physical body, with the understanding of impermanence, right? Nothing lasts, everything changes as you're experiencing the thought, or you're experiencing the situation, or you're experiencing the emotion, or you're experiencing whatever it is, right? So as a practice in Vipassana, where when we sit for an hour in the morning, an hour at night, we're observing the sensations, scanning our bodies, making a few inches and, going up and down, and sweeping and all of that good stuff. And sampajanna is taking that to the 24/7 level, or, to the awakened level, where all the time you try to remain aware and conscious of your sensations and of anicca, impermanence, as you're experiencing life. And so obviously it's not the same as when you're meditating, where you're just focused or trying to focus solely 100% on the sensations. It's more like a dual experience, right? So this sampajanna is important because you start to map the entire process of suffering from the moment that it begins through to the end from a higher perspective, right? And that is what's needed, because your subconscious, your unconscious, whatever you want to call it, it's a much wider perspective than just your intellectual or your imagining or, what all the stories that we say here. Because, when we set the stage and we're imagining the scenes and the words and all that, it's all like happening right in here. But there's also a whole thing happening here, right, in our bodies. And that's what sampajanna allows you to experience, both the mental stage and all the mental objects and content and all of that good stuff, as well as the physical stage. And that's the key difference is you must have, in Vipassana, you're developing two perspectives, or just a wider perspective, mental and physical at the same time. So during this retreat, after day 5, 6, or 7, I started to hit a level of depth in my mind where I could start to do sampajanna on a very consistent basis, right? Obviously, the first few days, the mind is so gross and so up here, not gross. It's very surface level. And then as the days go on, right, and you're silent and you're meditating hours on hours in the day, your mind just goes deeper and deeper, stronger and stronger, sharper and sharper. So, after day 5, 6, 7, whatever halfway point, I start to be able to experience sampajanna as I'm rolling, right? Let's say now this particular situation that arose, that sparked a lot of anger in me. Once I started to observe sampajanna with it, right, I started to, the sensations, the tension in my body, the anger itself, it started to soften, right? It just changed because no longer was all the anger contained in my mental scape. I could also experience my physical sensations and my body's experience and reaction to what I kept replaying in my mental stage. And now with this bigger space, right, this more space between my thoughts, more space between my mind and my body, in that space, I started to have more reasoning. I started to bring in more clarity, and I started to balance, right? And eventually, through this experience, right, I still thought about this situation, from time to time, the rest of the course, but I was eventually able to forgive the situation and to forgive the person, mainly because, right? Mainly because of the tremendous weight that I understood every single human being carries, right? Being human is so hard, right? To be the way that you want to be, right? All of us can say, I do not want to be angry and act out in ways that are not in alignment with how I want to be. I don't want to have the regret later, right? We can all say this, right? We can all say, I want to be free from all these negative traits or negative mental patterns, and maybe not even something as much as anger. Like I want to have a routine. I want to be disciplined. I want to be all of these things, right? We want all of these things. But how hard is it to be that, right? How hard is it to be a disciplined, healthy, emotionally stable, happy, like all of this? It's so hard to be that. And it wasn't until I got to this understanding at the 14-day course that I truly understood on a deeper level the tremendous weight that we are carrying, right? We have this ancient survival system that has been successful for billions of years, that is reacting to every little thing that we are experiencing as if it's life and death, right? It's not reacting to just big things. It's not reacting to actual life and death situations. It's literally reacting to everything. And we get overpowered by this, right? Excuse me. We get overpowered by this system on a daily basis, right? And once I understood this weight, right, it was like, okay, I had this expectation of this person, and I thought they would just 100% of live in alignment with that expectation. And when they broke it, I was just like, how could you do that? How could you do that? Like, it doesn't make sense to me that you could do such a thing. But then now realizing how easy it is to lose your reasoning, to lose your logic, right? Because this system overwhelms us, right? You're feeling, let's say there's a extra cookie. You just had a cookie. You're good. Now this feeling might come over you, and you might just get that extra cookie, even though you know you shouldn't, right? Or maybe that's just me. Maybe you guys are all good, right? Or, right, and just anything, it just comes and overpowers you, right? Some emotion comes up, anger, lust, fear, passion, whatever you want to call it. When it does come, it is powered and fueled by this arcane, just this ancient system that just fuels it, that just turns on the gas to the fire and just makes the fire huge. And then of course it takes you over. I mean, that's so easy to happen. And that's ultimately what I realized of why this person could do such a thing, is because it is so freaking hard to keep your cool when the system is trying to override you, right? And once I understood that, it was very easy to forgive them, right? And be like, life is freaking hard. It's hard. And it is what it is. So, I was just came to a place where I was like, I can forgive this person, and I can have a much deeper understanding of the suffering that everybody is going through, because everybody has this system, and everybody might not have this technique to pierce the depth of your mind, to begin to understand, right? Just the system and the framework and the design of this whole thing, right? That's what we do when we're meditating in Vipassana, is we're observing the mind and the body. We're understanding the structure, right? We're exploring the structure. We're understanding the structure. We're understanding all the parts that are in play as all these things are happening. And that's exactly what I did at this 14-day, right? Not that I know everything about the mind and the body, right? It's like I'm by no means all knowing about all this stuff. But through this practice, right, I've come to really just learn how my mind and my body works. And I guess that's what happens when you observe your mind and your body working, is you start to learn all the different parts. So we're on this path, right? And the good news with Vipassana yogis, right, people that practice Vipassana, is that our subconscious mind is something that can be reprogrammed, right? By practicing awareness, by working with our reactivity to physical sensations, by expanding our awareness, by literally going from only experiencing the mindscape and things and objects that only happen in the mind's eye or the mind's field, to now being able to incorporate the physical experience of these situations, right? You're already expanding the stage. You're literally expanding your awareness, right? And it's not like some woo-ha, sometimes you hear that, expanded consciousness, and you're like, what is that new age stuff? What these people are just talking about whatever. But here, you're literally expanding your awareness from just the mindscape to the mindscape and the physical scape, right? You can experience both. And so with sampajanna, that's what you're doing. You're literally expanding your awareness and your consciousness, right? And it's not about suppressing the emotions, right? It's about understanding them. So when you're observing the sensation, right? Like, let's say, for example, right now, if you were to observe the feeling in your foot as you're listening to this video, right? You're not suppressing what I'm saying. It's not really taking you, far away from hearing me, and you're not avoiding listening to what I'm saying. You can just do both, and you can see what your foot experiences. Now, your foot probably doesn't care about what I'm saying. It's not going to be tense. It's not going to be twitching unless you're a very anxious person yourself. But you get what I'm saying. However, when we are inside our mind and now anger arises or fear arises and you observe your foot, you're going to notice your foot does react to the thing that you are feeling, and our whole body reacts. And so being able to be there and to experience makes the task of really experiencing life a whole lot easier, right? Now, back to the expectations things, right? It was my anger arose because I had this expectation and this expectation was broken. Now, the expectation itself is not the issue, and something or someone breaking that expectation is also not the issue, right? And there's no problem, right? I need to have expectations to live, right? To move around. If I didn't expect myself to be talking and making this video, I wouldn't be doing it, right? So the issue isn't having expectations. However, right, there is two things to balance. It's okay to have expectations, but how you have those expectations is the question. And the question that brings up is, are you having expectations with the understanding of anicca, with the understanding of impermanence? And what does that mean, right? The rule of the world, right? Existing in time means every single thing has a start time and an end time, whether it's our life, whether it's a meeting, whether it's this video, whether it's starting to eat dinner, right? Everything starts and then everything ends. And that's it, right? Nothing lasts forever. That is rule number one. Nothing lasts forever. Everything starts and everything ends, right? Everything arises and everything disappears. So when you have expectations, if you're doing it with this understanding, what it means is that it can end at any time, right? So let's say I have the expectation that I am, gonna live until I'm 80, let's say 90. Now, I will live my life according to that expectation, right? I'll try to be healthy. I'll save for retirement. I'll have a family. I'll do all of this stuff. But with the understanding of impermanence means that I also understand I could die tomorrow, right? I could die tomorrow. And let's say with another example, I am driving in traffic. I have the expectation to be safe on the road and for other people to be safe on the road. And I will drive, right? It's called defensive driving. I will actually drive as if other people will make mistakes, right? Other people will make mistakes. And so I position myself in safe situations. I don't go in their blind spots. I don't go too fast for the situation. And I know that somebody could be a little more extreme than me. Somebody could cut me off, right? And so now I understand the distance between me and the next car. Somebody can cut right in, right? And this expectation of safety and equal distance and, whatever expectations I have around driving, understanding that at any moment that can be broken, right? At any moment, a situation can arise to change all of that and to prepare myself for it, right? And so it's balancing having expectations with the understanding that expectation can be broken at any time. And that's the balance that you got to do, right? And it really is helpful with angry situations, with sad situations. Let's say, one of your parents dies or something. Of course, you want them to live forever. But, we know everybody is going to die. If you remind yourself of that, and when they do die, if you're holding on to that expectation of them to be alive too tightly, right, it'll just prolong your suffering and your misery. So that's the thing, right, is how tight you hold on to the expectation. Like, have the expectation, hold it, and know that it can be broken at any time. And when it does, be able to let it go, right? Be able to gracefully say, all right, the time for this has come, right? Like, let's say you're going to leave a job. Like, you love the job, you were there, you were held on enough to like show up and like do your best. And then when it's time to move on, you move on. Or like, let's say a relationship, You were in a relationship and, for whatever reason, things happen that it ends, whether the person dies, whether, you just divorce or break up for some reason, any reason, right? It's how are you holding on to that so tightly that after it ends, it's bringing you more misery? Or do you say, okay, this thing, I married this person and wanted to be with them till death. That was the vows that I made. And for whatever situation arises, now that is broken and I got to let go, right? And so can you divorce gracefully? Now, I am not saying everybody go get divorced, nothing like that, but I'm just saying how tight you hold on leads to more misery. So when it comes to expectations itself, that's what you got to do is have the expectations, hold on to it, but not so tightly that when it ends, as all things do, or it gets broken, as all expectations will be, that you blow up and you lose your shit more than you have to. And then you're allowed to have expectations. At least for me, I'm allowed. I will have as many expectations as I want. And now with the understanding of impermanence, with the understanding that to not hold on to my expectations too tightly, and at the same time, to be aware of my physical sensations anywhere in my body 24/7 or every waking moment. I'm working towards that. I'm not there yet, but I am working towards being aware of my sensations every moment that I am aware and awake, which is the next level of Vipassana. So whatever expectations get broken, whatever emotions that sparks, and then whatever reactions that creates in the mind and the body, and then whatever these create and bounce off of each other, however your subconscious starts reacting and whatever you start rolling into, always be aware of the sensations so that you have this expanded awareness to be able to experience whatever situation, whatever thoughts, whatever outside situation that you're facing with a more balanced mind, right? That's what I learned. And so suffering is huge. I never really understood. Before, I used to think suffering is just big things. My mom died, or I lost my job, right? Just these big events. But really, suffering happens on a very minuscule, on a very small scale level. And Vipassana is one way to get out of it, getting your subconscious mind on your side, expanding your awareness, and all of these stuff. So I tell you, keep meditating. Keep on practicing. The road is far, but the road is very worth it. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.